Seasons changed, we still keep it together.
Hey, Beverly Hills 90210 fans! Are you ready to dive deep, episode by episode, storyline by storyline, character by character, as we break down the making of your favorite zip code? With your hosts, Charles Rosen.
Did I say that?
Harry
This
Mullins.
heinous thing about the real person, and we're going, what? We're getting rid of this guy.
Pete Ferrero.
I'm feeling wonderful. Kathleen looks TV crush-worthy.
Like so many special guests. And all your questions. Live on the Beverly Hills 90210 show. Oh, yeah.
Everybody dance now.
Okay, well, hey, here we are back on the Beverly Hills 90210 show. Larry, it's good to see you. How's everything on the East Coast for you?
Yes. Everything is good, Pete. I missed having Chuck here. Chuck around. Of course, he wasn't on the season, but he's at the Dodger game. So we're saying hi, Chuck, at the Dodger game.
Right.
And no, things are good here. I've managed though to lose a lot of things, but I find them again, which is the good part. But I lost my glasses. I left them in a restaurant, and they were found. So I think that was the good news. So, but I realized glasses are for losers. and I was a loser because I lost my glasses. But
Right.
I was going to try to just get it by without it. I raised all, because I'm finishing my third novel, and I raised all the font up so it was bigger. I said I can do this without glasses. Who needs glasses? So I was going to make it, but my wife got it for me this morning.
Nice. And Chris, associate producer of 90210, but you started in season 2, right? I mean,
I did, yeah.
And you went all the way to the bitter end.
Well, it was. I started in middle of season 2 or so. It was the Halloween episode.
Yeah.
So that was like September, August of that year. And then I was 2 years as a production PA, helping around the office. And then I had a liking for post production, and so they moved me over to Melrose Place post production as a post PA, and I did that thing for a season, and then they brought me back to 90210 to start over as a post PA. But then when the associate producer David Semmel was going to move on to a directing career, then I took over his seat, and that was in the middle of 1994.
Season 4, I think.
Season 4, yeah.
Season 4.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I know you got a lot of great stuff you're going to share here.
Well, Chris was there. I mean, not many people have worked, that many episodes. It's pretty
right, and all the way to the end.
So glad you could be here, Chris.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for inviting me.
Erin, from today, how's everything going today, and also at today?
Going well. It was good to rewatch this episode. It had been a while since it's one of the ones that's not on Hulu, so that was a fun rewatch.
Which I still don't understand why it's not on Hulu. Larry, did you figure that out?
No, I can't figure it out. Like, what? I don't know. There was at one point there were people speaking during some music that was playing, so they couldn't kind of strip it, I thought, but it just seemed like a minor. I don't know. It's upsetting, but it was good we saw it. Because like Erin, I hadn't seen it in a while, so it brought back a lot of memories, and some good, some bads. But all in all, I was pretty knocked out by it, I have to say. Jason did a beautiful job directing it. I believe it was one of the last episodes it was the last episode we did of the year before. We had the Christmas break. We did the post-production, and then the thing aired like early in January, probably the first original in January, and it's interesting because it followed, like we did with Real Time. It followed the end of a semester for kids in college, and January started another semester. So it's a significant episode because it's big things beginning anew and some things ending. And I know we're going to talk about this thing, so you want me to get into this now?
Let me set the stage
up for me, baby.
Let me set the stages for you here, because we the opening has you talking about, and we're getting rid of this. We got to get rid of this guy, which is referring to, I'm going to say, Dalton James, right? I mean, Dalton James came into the show season 7. We invited Dalton on the show today. He has expressed interest in coming on the show. There's certain people he doesn't want to talk about and all of this. But I think one day he will join us. But I think it's a good place to start because, you brought the character Mark Reese to life at the start of the season. And then suddenly you found out that you were going to have to remove that character. And so it's important to acknowledge why and how this happened, because it also affects Kane's character, who will be with us in a second here. So why don't you tell me what your life was like at the top of season 7 in regards to Dalton James and Mark Reese?
Well, first of all, the umbrella for all this is that in television, you've got a production schedule, but personnel decisions affect the storytelling. And when personnel decisions change, the storytelling changes. So in the beginning of season 7, which was really the first season, I really was the full-on showrunner. And it was important to me. We had a nice going plot. We cast a hot actor who had come off a series with Robert Urich called Crossroads, called Dalton James. And he had the kind of attitude, the blue blood attitude we wanted. We wanted someone who was not from Beverly Hills. He was from Bel Air. This is a cut above. This is someone with connections in Orange County, and he in the show he name drops Rupert, like Rupert Murdoch. His father's lynching with Rupert in Sydney. He's with Rupert in Sydney. Just someone who's really at another level. And Dalton really oozed that, and he did a wonderful job. And as it was in that time there, our actresses had to be so brave because whoever we wrote, they were with. And
you mean if they had to kiss the actor, there wasn't really much conversation.
No, I mean, look, you have to jump in cold water. You jump in cold water. This is what you've done. This is the trade that we've chosen. And in a way, it was pretty wide open then. I mean, it really wasn't. There was no romantic scene coaches who kind of choreographed the kissing and stuff, and like it is now. And then it was pretty Wild Westy. But Mark, like I said, he was a hot actor. Dalton James, who played the character Mark Reese, was a hot actor at the time, and played the part to a T. So he started in episode 2. This was episode 14, but I'd say by episode 11, and we'd already written, I'm sure, well, maybe even earlier, maybe like episode 5 or 6. You'll notice in this episode, the character of Mark Reese and Jenny Garth had not
Kelly Taylor
had not been intimate yet. And this episode, they were supposed to. Like, it was really supposed to be about a guy who was a good loser, not a bad loser, because you show character.
You're talking about in Job.
I'm talking about in Job. In other words, so we went from second to the end. But
got it. Okay.
In between, so that was going to happen. But what happened about episode 6 or 7 was we got called upstairs, and by that I mean it was Steve Wasserman and I got called up. This has been in the teen drama horror,
yes,
or dear friend Weiss's column, and we're told not the only time this has ever happened, but we were told that the chemistry between one of our stars and the guest star was portraying and romantically involved in was not working, and we were going to terminate his contract. And in this case, we were doing 32 episodes a year, as Chris knows how difficult that was. And the kind of, I'm always pushing for material. We were way ahead in scripts, and Mr. Spelling knew it. And so when he brought us up there, this is going to be delivering us some pretty devastating news, probably around November, Thanksgiving, maybe whatever. Mm-hmm. And the way he couched it, he couldn't lose. He said to us, and again, I have no knowledge of whether this is true or not, but this was he was a master manipulator. He's a great executive producer, and sometimes the ends justify the means. But for whatever reason, he said to us, well, I just heard Dalton James is anti-Semitic. And we go, what? He goes, yeah, that's what we heard. And Steve and I go, what? We brought up our rage or whatever. He says, I think we have to cut him out. He says, yes, we're going to write him out. I'm writing that script. I'm going to write him out right now. And
so you were charged
Steve
up.
And by the time Steve and I got to the elevator, we went, it's not true, is it? He just did that so we couldn't complain about it. And he got rid of us quickly. Like if Chuck was there, Chuck would have fought him. Chuck would have demanded proof. But, it was my first.
Right, Chuck would have definitely demanded proof.
Well, Chuck might have actually gone the other way. I can't tell. I'm kind of like, oh, well, we got to write. It's just writing. At that point, it's just writing. He just writes another storyline. So we got to write him out. He won't get laid. He'll get dumped. It's one or the other. And that's where we were. And that's that. But the truth is, I call that the kissing problem because ultimately, there's a leap of faith that happens with the actress and her co-star, and they have to have some kind of trust between them. And perhaps the trust, it's in his kiss. as we could subtitle this. It's in his kiss, and maybe it wasn't in his kiss, and for whatever reason that created the kissing problem, which she didn't want to continue. And at that point, she had earned that right to be with people that she felt comfortable with. So it was just the way it was, and it ended up a great episode.
It did. Lauren Meltzer
It was a good blow off.
She agrees. They really did not have chemistry. So thank you for that, Lauren. All right, we're going to bring on our buddy Kane Picoy. Listen, I want everybody to know that we were supposed to have Morgan Greene here. She's dealing with some personal issues, but so for those of you on the Patreon, we were going to do something with her down the line to talk about her spot in this episode. But anyway, so Dalton James is out. Right, and now you need
Dalton James. We have to write him out. The same time, now we're short a player.
Is out. Mark Reese
is out. Now we're short a player. We need another guy. And I think Thomas and here's the guy, Kane Picoy. Right. Because we needed someone to kind of mix up, we need someone to occupy Kelly, because I think 4 episodes later he gets a little bit involved with Kelly, which was good, because now all of a sudden we have Kelly with nobody, so we kind of have the mourning period of no boyfriend, and then we give her some funny boyfriends, and then we give her Kane, who looked great. And so good to see you, Kane. So thank you so much for coming. It took a while to find you. And it was worth it because looking at his work again. I mean, just the entrance is great. He's an LA guy, but you swear he's from Buffalo. I mean, it's like he comes in there. He's got a roughness to him, and I just think it's all working. It's all
Kane,
working.
It is good to see you, man. How are you doing? What's going on with you these days?
Well, just living here in Los Angeles with my wife. We live Lake Balboa, and we have a family business. I have a meal delivery company called Zen Foods, and thank God we're doing well. Busy.
That's amazing. Yeah. It's good to see you, man. I want to ask you about coming into this world of Beverly Hills 90210. You were acting at the time, I imagine. Do you remember how you auditioned for the show and how that all came to be?
I'd been to audition for Mr. Spelling several times, like a bunch of times. And I think I was up for something on Melrose Place, and there was a couple things going on at the time. And I thought I was going to actually be doing Melrose Place. And then they said they wanted me to go in to read for 90210. And next thing I know, I was hired. After I read with Jason.
Oh, sorry, I was going to ask you, what was that process? You read with Jason? Do you remember that?
Yes, I think I don't know if I went once or twice, but I did read with Jason. He was actually directing the episode, I believe.
Right. Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for Chris, I'm curious to get your take on this. You've seen the episode. Do you have any memories of this process getting into this portion of the season or season 7?
No, it was just fun to watch the show. And then as associate producer, I'm in charge of post-production. So once they shoot it, the film comes to the lab, and then I manage, the processing of the film, the editors who edit it, and then, working with the producers to get a cut going and showing it to Mr. Spelling, and then it goes to the network. And then we go for a sound mix. So I'm involved with production, but I'm not on there every day.
Right.
But what's fun for me is when I watch it, I remember like the whole scene with Steve and the lady who tries to pick him up. I forgot her name there, the character. The one with having coffee, coughing outside at Century City.
Yes.
We looped all that, or most of it. And I remember, like it was yesterday. Like, I remember we got that line. Oh, we got that line. So there's little post-production things. I recall all that.
Well, let me ask you about this one line. Hang
Uh-oh. Yeah, I wanted to ask him about that. Such a good sport.
Let's see here. I want to show a quick scene here. Hopefully the buttons work this week. But
So you've seen the error of your ways?
Oh, yes I have, and I'm willing to go that extra mile now.
That's an excellent attitude adjustment. That's exactly what it takes to be part of the Tasco team.
Well, great. Hope you don't have to rush out of town too soon.
I was, but plans change. My boss should have headed to Seattle already, so if there's a final evaluation needed, I'd have to stay.
Oh, yeah, you'd have to stay. So, where do you propose we do this final test?
My hotel room. Although I warn you, it might be an oral.
one of the great takes.
Well, Steve's reaction, Ian's reaction.
Steve's reactions are great.
So
Yeah.
great. I really wanted Ian to meet Kim again. It's really a great double take. Really.
How do you get? It might be an oral past, and was that?
It was in the script all along. I mean, sometimes I don't remember having to fight for it particularly, and maybe just kind of, sometimes they just didn't get the joke,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of delicious. It's the hashtag Steve too,
Kane, you get brought right into the mix here. I mean, you're going to be working with Tiffany. What was that like? What was she like to work with? You guys are going to be, working a lot together for your whole run there.
Right.
What was that like?
At first I didn't know what to expect, to be honest with you, because when you go into a situation like that where, it's a pre-existing family kind of situation, you don't know if there's any drama going on. But I actually found it really fun. There weren't any problems. I didn't notice any problems on set or any drama. Everyone just got along as if, like as if everyone was in college or something. Like we all lived in the same apartment building. It was, everyone was friendly. The crew was amazing. The producers were very gracious. Everyone was amazing. I had a blast.
Did you know any of the actors beforehand? Did you know Brian Austin Green? He knew everybody.
No, I didn't know anybody. I mean, I met Jason. I had done a TV show with his girlfriend at the time called LA Firefighters. It was a pilot for Fox.
Mm-hmm.
And he came down to the set quite often. And we became friendly after that, but we didn't hang out. But he was awesome. I mean, everybody was awesome. I mean, my first day, I didn't feel nervous at all. I mean, they just were so welcoming. So it was a great experience.
What was your first scene? Do you remember?
Yeah, my first scene was walking into
the club.
The pizza club, I guess.
Yeah, that's the opening scene. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was it, and that was actually the first scene they shot. So it was that was kind of weird. I mean, it felt awkward going in because I wasn't introduced formally to anyone other than Tiffany. But it worked out,
Sure.
And I mean, you're obviously, this is a huge show. By season 7, it's a massive, massive show. So you kind of touched on that. Is it intimidating? What is some people that have come on here say coming into that world is very intimidating, and they kind of get overwhelmed with it. They don't want to make any mistakes. Mm-hmm. What were you kind of feeling in walking in that first day?
Don't forget your lines. That was it. It's like being the new kid in school. You got those butterflies. You're kind of nervous. You don't know anyone, so you're like the odd man out. But that quickly dissipated. I got to be honest with you. Everyone was so cool. But I'd known the show was really popular at that point. To be honest with you, I really never watched the show.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I really didn't. I mean, I was just, a lot of those shows I didn't watch. So I wasn't familiar. All I knew about, that Jason and what's his name were brother and sister, Shannon Doherty were brother and sister, whatever. And that what's his name had left the show. Sorry, Luke.
Yeah.
Sorry. And that's all I knew. So I wasn't kept up on who was going out with who. I didn't know any of that. So I just had to.
You did know that you were brought on for 7 episodes or whatever the run was going to be.
Yeah.
And how do you start to develop and create Tom in this world?
Basically, we just made it up as we went along. I mean, I just followed the writing. They cast me thinking I was a kid, from the wrong side of the tracks for some reason. That's what they thought. So I gave them that. I played him as close to me as possible. I didn't do any research or anything on, his background. Some background. I just went along with what the script said.
I mean, You didn't know anything about the show, but did you try to figure out a couple of things of where the show was at that time? Do you do any research of like, okay, Valerie is moved in because Brenda left, or you just go in blind and that's it? We'll figure it out as we get there.
Well, yeah, I did get the gist of what was going on prior. You know,
Yeah.
I was briefed. I think my little sister briefed me.
Nice.
You know, and some of my girlfriends, they briefed me, so I knew who was sleeping with who or who was doing what to who. I was aware of that. I didn't know where I was going to fit in, you know.
Right.
So I mean, I guess they had me going out with Kelly afterwards. I mean,
Yeah.
I was, who's next, Jason?
Well, yeah, I mean that. No,
So
I mean
tell
the Kelly thing is we need, you know, again we had a big hole in the Kelly storyline, so you know we needed and the thought you know, at that point I wanted to have Kelly and Brandon get back together, but I wanted to make it tough. So so he was going to become useful. But I think what's really touching and seeing the stuff now, and I feel good about the performance and also about the writing, because it was a very dimensional character. They had this great past with Valerie and Tom, and you know they shared a lot of stuff. And he's the only one who knows the secret about her father, which at that point we didn't really even know that whole story. We just kind of threw that out there to be mined later, like I was gonna be there, but.
They did. They followed up on it, Larry. Don't worry.
I know they did. I mean, because it was rich, and you know, and then within Tom though, just again, he's the outsider in the group like Valerie, so it was really good to give her someone to have there. And then once we bring him and Kelly together, well, she hates Kelly, so that's going to really piss her. So in other words, we're starting to keep the triangles going. It's all about triangles and all these triangles in motion in the way we're writing this stuff as we get to our end game, which at this season for me was going to be Brandon and Kelly getting back together.
Larry, there was a lot of questions on the Patreon about keeping Tom on the show and why was he there only for 7 episodes? And did you ever have a conversation like, hey, I like this guy. I want to keep moving with him. Was there anything like that? And this is, I'm for sure, very informative for Kane as well. Now all these years.
Well, you know, we were very happy with the work Kane was doing. It was all working, and I should say, I would think you'd be having some impact. People were recognizing you on the street, Kane, and everything and stuff. And I mean, he was, you know, it was a good character. He was a good guy, and we had to give him a little bit of a heel turn toward the hockey game stuff because you know. But I mean, he was gonna. Again, he exits him with this ring, which is again Kelly going back to Brandon. So we didn't need him at that time. I think we had hired him for. I think the contracts then, I could be right or wrong, was 7 out of 10. You kind of book them for 10, but they have to be within 7 episodes within that span of 10. And he had done that thing. Now again, there was so much going on at that time, and I'm not sure if Chris was aware of it either, but. It was the end of college, just like Job is about becoming adults. Well, all these kids are wondering now, what are we going to do after college? And some deals are being signed. Jason's deal hasn't been signed. I mean, there's a lot of things in flux. No one knows what's going on, mostly me. But I just kind of chugging along, so I don't want to make any calls. And, you know, at that point, I could sense.
You weren't really in the position maybe to.
No.
You were fighting over the Spice Girls, so I don't think that.
Well, that was later on, the fight of the Spice Girls, but it was all ending a job. The job was I think when I came back in January, I was trying to get reassurances that I was coming back. You know,
right,
and it just wasn't getting answers. You know, so it was already like, oh well. But again, there was too much work to be done to really worry about that. And in Job, I think what's really great about Job is it really gives you a little glimpse of what the future is going to be like or could be like for this group after college. And I think it's really a good themed show, you know, and I don't think we actually had. Did you ever shoot in the college, Tom? Yeah, you must have. Over the years, you must have shot in the college set. But in this particular episode, I don't think Valerie goes to the job.
She's
fair.
there.
She's there.
She's at the college, but she doesn't go to necessarily to the job fair. But
that all pulled in pretty good, though. I was really pretty happy with the way that looked. And you know, we had a lot of money then. I think, Chris, because it looked like a big production, lots of extras. We shot in Century City. Oh my God. And we shot at the beach in this. I mean, I love the beach stuff. We made a whole day at the beach. We had people walk one way.
Liz says you were cute then, cute now. So there you go.
Liz, hey, I have a fun tidbit.
What's Chris's tidbit? What do you got?
when Kane and Tiffany are watching the home movies and there's the flashback, he shoots, and her father kills himself. But the insert of the guy on the floor was Steve Wasserman, executive producer.
I know.
And
We're so happy.
Yeah, and I don't know why it was shot that way, other than maybe we couldn't, wasn't scripted that way originally, and it was asked for after the fact, so it was an insert. And then if an insert would require, like, if we wanted that guy to pay him a fee to bring him back, the dad. But Steve says, I'll do it. And I remember Steve getting all excited because I'll do it. I want to do it.
Absolutely.
So you're saying this image here, this is Steve Wasserman?
This is Steve Wasserman, who just happened to look like the dad in the home video from the prom times.
He was so excited to do that.
Steve was great in that, and I wish he was getting royalties on that somewhere in writer's heaven or heaven.
I do want to show the scene with you and Tiffany watching the video. I don't know. I mean, it's really great. You know, we have a lot of problems with YouTube with music and all that, but we're going to play it for a little bit and just get your thoughts on doing some of this stuff, Kane.
God. That's my father.
I forgot he was on the tape.
All right, I'm going to cut it because they'll freak out. But so some pretty heavy stuff. This is, you know, I mean, even heavy for 90210. I'm curious for you, Kane, working with her and doing some of this stuff. Do you have memories of that?
Vague, very vague memories, but I just remember it being very easy. I don't know when we shot that scene, if it was like I think it was in the first week, but I don't remember having any hard times or difficult times with her or anyone on that show for that matter. I mean, just felt pretty easy, flawless.
As an actor,
maybe they thought I sucked. I don't know.
No, I don't think so. I'm curious, though, as an actor, you get this heavy stuff. This is the kind of stuff that you want to be doing, yeah? Yeah. I mean, anytime, any opportunity back then to act, you know, now things have changed, obviously, but you know, what you lived for back then, so.
Hey, Erin, what did you think of the Tom character?
I liked him. I was going to ask, actually, what did you, Larry, like about what Tom kind of brought out of Valerie?
I just, you know, it gave her a comfort zone in a way, you know, someone to really talk to. It's kind of like what we had with Ginger, but Ginger was just stab her in the back, probably. So we had the two characters from Buffalo, but you know, Tom was really, you know, the guy who really, he still had a torch for her. I mean, I love the line she says. I mean, I did write the script, so I love. But I think she says, "He was your first boyfriend," and she goes, "That too." And she says, "He was my first." And someone goes, "Boyfriend?" She goes, "Yeah, that too."
Tracy in it, yeah.
Tracy, yeah. That was kind of cute. So they really were kids together. And that someone like that is so important in someone's life. And no, I mean, I would have brought him back because it was my character. I got paid on it. Okay, every time he appeared, so of course he would have been coming back. But unfortunately, he tied his self to my. You know, I sunk him. I sunk the Tom character. I'm sorry, Kate.
Lori says, I kind of think Tom brought out Val's vulnerability too, but I think he did that out of Tiffany, the actor, as well. I think that there is a really nice chemistry between the two of you in some of this stuff. So it's really, really, really great to see. Erin, do you have any other questions for Kane?
We touched on this a little, but I was wondering what Kane remembers about filming that first scene with Brian Austin Green, because I thought you had a really good kind of confrontational moment where I think you say something, or you say, "Look, dude, why don't you just go back to screwing in your light bulb?"
Yeah.
Bill's Mafia.
Yeah, that was. Well, to be honest with you, that day, I do remember having, you know, some stomach issues, you know, so I was just kind of, you know, getting those butterflies in my stomach, and it just made it worse, you know. So I just remember feeling a little sweaty around the forehead area, you know, nervous coming in. And there's this guy, Brian Austin Green, who I really didn't have any interaction with him prior. So, he comes across like he comes across, and so it was just natural, put it to that way. But after that, we became friendly. He was a very sweet guy, very sweet guy.
It seems to be all the way around, people saying that.
Love Brian.
Yeah,
always love Brian. You do stay on the show and do some really cool things outside of Jobbed, and I wanted to ask you about the hockey. Larry kind of mentioned the hockey thing. We talked a little beforehand, so I know the answer to this, but were you really into hockey before doing this stuff?
No. I have 2 left feet. I was so not into hockey. Jason actually, bless him, tried to give me lessons and stuff like that. I did some. I could skate forward.
That's great.
Yeah,
I couldn't stop.
Good job editing there, Chris. Good job editing.
I can go left, right, and do a circle, a really big circle. But then there was a segment where they had me going backwards and facing off with Jason's character, and he was trying to work with me. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it, and had all the gear on. So they rigged up some kind of ice dolly or something. And
camera's point of view,
yeah, and it was so awkward because I had to kind of like do this, kind of like, fake left and right.
yeah.
So bad. I mean, my family still teases me about it. I'm not kidding. I have people who like, oh, you're that idiot with the.
Oh, God.
No, but my wife teases me about it constantly. Bless her. Yeah, that was, and it came across. I thought like I came out just for like 2 seconds. The rest of the stuff they made me look decent, but that 2-second kind of quick thing where
I blame Chris. I blame Chris.
Look just like
thank you.
We always love hearing these stories about people getting recognized. I was talking to someone yesterday who told me that from when she was on the show that as soon as she woke up one morning and then the next day she went to the bank and everybody knew who she was because she had done 90210. Did you have a similar experience?
Yeah, I did actually for a while that year. I remember being in Vegas with my family and, being recognized a few places. But I didn't I don't know. I didn't go to very many places where I would be recognized, I guess. I mean, but it did happen to me once in a while.
Oh my God, are you Tom?
For the first year, yeah. For that during that season, yes, it happened all the time. But after that, dissipated.
Any recents from doing the food business? I have to ask you a weird question.
Actually, now that you mention it, I was actually trying not for our business, but I was trying to find someone online that knew how to build tiki bars, outdoor tiki bars. So I contacted this couple and we started going back and forth on emails, and I guess she looked me up. She was, "You're an actor. You were on 90210, weren't you?" Wow. Remember that
thing?
I've got a recognition story where it was one of the earlier years when I was a production PA, and there was a wrap party on Sunset Boulevard, and we're excited to go, and we drive up in my car, and all the paparazzi are out front, and we pull the car up to the valet, and the paparazzi are coming with their cameras, and then you hear you open your car door and you hear the paparazzi say, "Oh, they're nobody." And I said to my wife, "Welcome to Hollywood."
That's amazing. Wow. Chris, I'm sure and I know fans have asked me, and I said this beforehand, about you talking about some of the later seasons, so we'll do some of that. But I'm curious about, this season or your experiences from being with season 2. Do you have any good ADR stories and things of that nature that you wanted to share with us here? Any tidbits?
There's a couple of good ones, but one was with Luke, and he had to come over for ADR. Now, we were in Studio City on the Radford lot, they call it, for the ADR, and the stages were in Van Nuys, so about 5 miles away or so. So you'd make an appointment for the actor to come over, and they would come over. But this particular day, he only had like 10 minutes of work, wanted to get in, get out. But there's assigned parking spots, and the ADR mixer, this gentleman Weldon, is very strict about you park here and you park, so there's no issues because it goes smooth if everyone parks where they're supposed to park. So Luke doesn't park where he's supposed to park. He parks right next to the door and comes in, and Weldon says, "No, you got to move." And he's, "No, I'm not moving. It'll take 10 minutes. It'll take me longer to move the car, but I can be done." So fine, we do it. And then when we come out, there's this man sitting on the couch with his hat on, sunglasses, and his cane on the end of the couch. "Young man, you're in my spot." And Luke, "Sorry, sir, I'm very sorry." And he didn't know who it was, and he walks out, and he goes to get in his car, and the angle that he had on me in the glass door, he reads the name, and his mouth, and it was James Gardner. But he didn't come back in to apologize. He just sheepishly got in his car and drove off.
Any other good ADRs?
The other one, a friend reminded me this morning, was a queuing with Jason where we had an appointment for him to come over to ADR, and the set said he's wrapped. He's gone. He left. Like 2 hours have gone by, and he's not here yet. Figuring an hour is okay. Give him some time, but he's not there, and he's not there. And we finally get a hold of him on his cell phone, and we hear Christmas music in the background. We're like, "Where are you?" "Oh, I'm at the Glendale Galleria Christmas shopping. I'll be over in half an hour." Busy on the set, and had to go out and get some gifts and stuff.
Larry, there's a lot of other things happening in this episode we should talk about. Do we have any other questions for Kane? Let me see if anyone has any questions for Kane before we.
I was just texting Mark Sussman, Chris.
Oh, that's funny.
Let's see. Nope. Well, so I'm sure that will pop up. But I want to ask you, Larry, about the other thing that's happening here. We kind of talked a little bit about it, but she was supposed to be here to talk about this. This indecent proposal, is that? I don't know if that's the movie.
No. I think it's actually, it's like it is a Demi Moore story though. It's not an indecent proposal. It's something else it's called, where she kind of is accused of sexual harassment.
Yeah, with Michael.
Indecent.
What is it? Disclosure.
Indecent?
Disclosure. Was that?
Disclosure.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is way before that, but again, we always kind of twist it. It's like, what could go wrong with Steve's life, and so it really works well, as a relationship story between him and his girlfriend, because she kind of teased this whole interview up for him. She's behind it all, and then of course he's got this man eater he has to please, and Kim Morgan Greene does a wonderful job being very, I actually had met someone like this who worked for the Miss Teen America thing, so I think that character is in my head, and she really does deliver on this, and she's a great sport on it, and Ian, I think, really enjoyed working with it because he just is flying. I mean, some of his takes are the best thing he's ever done.
She told me, I did talk to her briefly before we came on the air, and apparently that they worked together after this too, in a similar thing in an indie film. So we'll definitely get her back here. And I thought Kathleen's great. The stuff with her, and
again, I mean, it's a great part of the relationship story. She really wants him to succeed, and she thinks he screwed it up, and then in the end, they kind of do a little bit of a sting, and they catch the harasser. This is way before things like that were done, and certainly it happened a lot in our industry, so we could tell that story easily.
Kane, do you remember working with Ian or Kathleen Robertson at all?
I believe I worked with Ian. He was hysterical. He's a very funny guy.
Yeah.
Funny, yeah.
Chris, go ahead. And Kathleen?
I worked with Kathleen, no. I mean, other than her being in the same scene briefly, that's about it.
Yeah. Chris, what about those guys? Any ADR? I mean, I think you said the ADR for this was definitely the stuff with Ian and
Century City.
So much ADR, it feels like, for this episode. Yeah?
Yeah. Well, it just depends. Locations are picked because of their beauty, not because of they sound great. You just have to deal with the moment, and you have your sound department do the very best microphones they can and get good sound. And if not, then we have to replace a few lines. But it really comes down to the dialogue and the story, and can the audience hear it and understand it? And Aaron Spelling never wanted the audience to lean forward and say, "What did they just say?" He didn't want you to sit back on the couch and relax and enjoy the show.
Hey, what's cool? Kim Morgan Greene had to do the oral scene twice. She had to do it live, and she had to do it again in ADR.
That's right. It does appear that way. Linda wants to know, Kane, did you think Tom should have wound up with Valerie?
Well, I don't know, Larry. What do you think?
Like I said, you were gonna. It was definitely you were not going to go away because you were too significant in her life. As long as she was there, you were going to somehow be around.
Yeah.
So I would get down facts. I think we even brought her mother in the episode "You Leave," Michelle Phillips. Because do you remember that you got to work with the mom, with the mamas and the papas? Hey,
Yeah, I remember that.
What was that like? You got
that
to meet her. I didn't even get to meet her. I never went to the set.
I remember seeing her actually on the show when I'd watched it before. She was on it before, right?
Yeah.
I think so,
no,
yeah.
I don't think so. Yeah, she was.
Wasn't she?
I don't think she was on until
that episode
mix. Yeah.
I had seen her on something, and the makeup guy, I forgot his name, the guy with the glasses.
Nick was one of them.
Yeah, he goes, this is Michelle Phillips. You know who Michelle Phillips is, right? I'm like, Mamas and Papas? He goes, yeah. And then he started telling me all these stories from the early 70s when they all used to hang out. I was like, wow, really? Crazy stuff. And she sat next to me, after he told me all this stuff, she came and sat next to me. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Pretty wild days,
Why can't we be three? Why can't we be three? I think that was the whole thing,
Oh,
something like that. Yeah, it was like everybody was doing everything to everybody back in those.
Well, we're gonna try to get her on one day too. We'll see how that plays out. Lisa wants to know for Kane, what was your favorite scene to film?
Gosh, there were a couple scenes. All my stuff that with Valerie was just fun to do. There was one scene, I think it was the last scene I shot, where Valerie and she's pouring me a drink of scotch, and Jason actually a real bottle of Johnny Walker Blue, trying to celebrate my last day there. So
wow,
like 5 or 6. Yeah, Larry, you didn't know about it.
Didn't know about that.
It was
the SAG steward didn't know.
It was it was fun.
It's cool.
That was my favorite scene. It was nice because everybody was sad to see me go. It was fun. It was a nice day. It was my last day.
Well, that's really good stuff. Okay, I think for Kane, I think we're good with Kane. I want to talk about a couple more things that are happening in this episode, Larry. We've got Donna Martin's dad, messing all things
and the whole Dreyer scholarship
and the Dreyer scholarship. Kane, I just wanted to thank you for stopping by, and I wanted to just say, man, listen, I think the fans kept asking to have you on here because you did incredible work back in the day. I know you're doing some awesome stuff, but man, be proud of this work because it's really, really awesome stuff.
Thank you.
You're a part of it, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you, Kane. Cool. All right, so it was good seeing him, right, Larry?
Great.
It was fun.
Great. No, he had great presence. He was strong.
I wanted to ask you, Larry, about the Donna Martin thing, right? We have Donna Martin's, and what I love that, and we talked about this on Patreon. What I loved about what you were doing was you were giving a little insight into what might be happening with these kids in season 8. I know that you maybe didn't intend for that, but you don't know what everyone's going to be doing, but you're certainly doing this job fair. And now you test Donna Martin's receptionist skills, right?
Again, there's and as Chris knows, we're telling stories by, with A story, B story, C story, D story. So is the Donna Martin the C story or the D story? I don't know, but all the stories in this episode really are good. And this particular story, I wrote the script, but everyone is part of the actual story because I got to tell the story to everybody. Everybody gets a chance to whack at it. So when we got to the Donna Martin one, the way I saw it was really kind of like that scene in It's a Wonderful Life where James Stewart's brother screws up at the bank, and it's like terrible things are going to happen. So that just became the shorthand as we're laying in the stories and building an episode. So Donna Martin, it's she and you see it now. Again, we set Donna up because everyone expects. Again, she's worried about her future. Can she really handle being an adult? And we set her up, and she looks like she's miserably failing. And then she saves her father's ass because her father's so stressed he makes a mistake because he hasn't listened to his patients, which was a pet peeve of mine. And a pet peeve about doctors. Sometimes they don't listen to people when they should. and she saves the day, and in a way it gives her confidence. Her job story becomes kind of a winning story. And I thought that Michael Durrell, we've never had in the show, and I hope he's well. I fear that he's not. He's ailing somehow,
Right?
But he does a beautiful job in this episode, and
Yeah, he's great.
it's a good father-daughter thing. It just works out really well.
I love this stuff, and there's all this stuff about the cat and mixing up the medicines and all of this. You told me in Patreon that you actually researched this information, right?
I think, and I'd like to think that Jessica helped me here because she was always the medical expert. But I think we have you can't take beta blockers if you're smoking nicotine. I think there was some kind of a thing we found that kind of was going to really cause harm. I believe that's correct.
Our friend Chris wants to know, you'll love this, who wrote for Donna to say maybe she's out with the cat? Who leaves the house with the cat?
That's a good question, Larry.
It just shows you how confused Donna is. But some people leave it. I've got friends who pick up their cats and take them for walks. So it's not.
I have friends
in LA, not with a leash. They just carry them around. They want. See, there's birds over there. See, like there's this squirrel. My friend used to live in the Venice Canals. There are the ducks. Come on, let's go. So yes, Chris, it does happen.
Before we talk about the dryer thing and some of the other stuff, I want to ask Chris. You've had a lot of time working with the various people. I'm just going to ask you about a few of them that have come in and done ADR, particularly from this season. What about Kathleen? I asked Kane about Kathleen Robertson. Did you remember doing some stuff with her?
Yeah, nothing specific comes to my head right away because it's so long ago, but she was great. Everyone was awesome. I mean, it was a big, giant family. And that's the one thing with a long-running series. And Larry, I think you talked about at the beginning of the show, but it's a tight-knit group. And it's a big, busy group. I mean, everyone's responsible for their jobs and works hard. And it's fun. I don't know. I don't have any specific stories on Kelly. I'm trying to think back.
But what about your spelling stories? Because you had to do with Mr. Spelling also. I just remember you'd be going by Renee with the videos and having to go into the old man's room and see him eating hot dogs and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Well, there was one time I'm trying to schedule Tori for some ADR, and I guess she wasn't feeling that great, and I was politely pushing her, trying to coerce her to come to the ADR stage. And I'm recording other things on the ADR stage, and then I get a phone call or over the speaker from the booth in the back. It says, "Chris, you have to come back. There's a phone call." I said, "Well, just patch it to my phone here." "No, you need to come in the back for this one." And I pick up the phone, and it was Aaron calling for me. And he says, "Are you trying to schedule Tori for some ADR?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he goes, "Can you do it any day but today? Just do it any day but today." So I said, "Absolutely," and then we just got it up a day or two after.
There you go.
But I guess I asked once too many times, and
that's that. Chris,
you took care of that. We'll take care of Chris. Yeah, that's not a good thing. Mr. Spelling's on the line. Yeah, I would pull over if I got that call. Because we all had bad car phones in the '90s too. We all had these stupid, what was called mobile phones.
I love that you would purposely drive into the valley so that the phone
can't hear you. The valleys. I'm in the canyon. Can't hear you. Yeah, that was in the canyon. Was a big, for 10 years when everyone had that, there was no reception. See, and we had to go to the canyon because the studio was on the other side of the hill.
Right. Courtney wants to know this, and I know Larry answered this already. But where did Kelly's final line to Mark come from? Please tell me. If there's something in Larry's life.
Okay. I'm going to tell a story. I've never told it.
Oh, jeez.
I paid a friend of mine called Trader Fred. Trader Fred lives on Martha's Vineyard, which is where I am right now. This is like 19, so I've been here a long time. Trader Fred was telling me this story. And the story was kind of like that line. I said, I need that line. I said, I need that line. Sell me the line. What do you want for it? He says, $200. I said, great, here it is. And then I adapted the line, but the line is great. And then the line also became a line in a song I wrote. So I basically took the line out of the song and turned it into the blow off of Mark. And, it takes a while to set up because, Kelly has to say, "Hey, I tried you on your phone. I tried you on your so-and-so." She has to set the thing up.
You were weaving.
Weaving it in. I set it up really well. And then he says, you. But then he really hits him with some hard stuff. You really blew it, baby. You could have been a Reese. I mean, again, he's such a bad loser. That's what was so great. And as I was saying before, he could have been a good winner. He could have been a good loser, and then he would have slept with her that night. See, that it was up in the air. But at that point, I was writing him out. We already knew he was doomed. So I wrote that episode with that knowledge. So, yeah, I mean, then she says, you want to be a millionaire. You just bet someone. And every time your phone rings, it's not me. You'll be right every time.
I love
that. So Trader Fred, he's the guy. Trader Fred Mescal. He's actually appeared in a couple of Farrelly Brothers movies also. He's a local hero on the island.
Todd H. doesn't usually ask questions. I'm going to ask it. I don't think anybody here will have the answer to it. I have an odd question. Are the 90210 film tapes in storage somewhere? And does Chris know if they still exist in the original production? I don't know that you would know.
I'm sure they do.
There's well, we were shot on film, and there was a process where you would hire a negative cutter in the old days to cut the negative for storage. But what they ended up doing was save the ins and get rid of the outs. So anything that's in the show, you'd have a negative pull list, and you pull those pieces of negative and put them in a box. And I heard that the main storage for stuff like that is like an assault mine underneath Kansas for archival storage. But Paramount controls that now, so I have no idea where they are. But there was a point where they were on Seward Avenue in a vault. I know that for a fact. And I was in them as other spelling shows were in there as well.
So you're saying so any outtakes would be gone? You're saying, or do you or the outs were saved as well?
No, on film on the film, the actual original film. It's my understanding that they would only put the stuff that's in the show in long-term storage, and everything else I don't think was hung on to.
Oh, that's sad.
No, Well, we 16 or 35.
We were 35, and then we turned into that was what they call four perf show. So for every frame, there's like 4 little sprocket holes next to it. But then there was a technology came called 3 perf film, where it's 3 films instead of a little bit of a gap between the negative. Now the negative or the images are really, really, really close together, and it saves you a percentage, on the end.
Yeah, that's
I'm curious, Chris. This is just a throw-out question, and we're going to talk about the dryer for everybody that's wondering. But I'm curious: was there ever something that got lost, or something that didn't work out on film, where you guys had to go back and reshoot something because of an issue with?
There was one time I was very early in being the associate producer, probably during like season 4 or 5. But I get a phone call in the middle of the night that what happened was the film went in the soup. And what that means is when it's developing, it's basically a long, continuous, like 1,000-foot roll of film. And then it goes through these different baths at the lab at night. And it's your show plus all the other shows that have shot that day come in there for processing. Well, they splice them together, but once in a blue moon, the splice will break. So then your film stays in the process too long and it's spoiled. You have to call it the soup. But I remember I called Kenny Miller, my boss, at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and it was the first time anything that's happened to me. I was worried, like, I got to call someone. And Kenny said, like, thanks for the call. He said, but there's nothing you or I can do about it now. Just get a full assessment in the morning and call me. And you just have to go in and figure out, here's what was shot based on the camera reports. Here's what we're missing. And then if I'm not mistaken, what we try to do is edit the show together and find out, do we really need this scene for the story? I don't remember what scene it was at all. But yeah, there's been times we lost it in the soup.
How does that go over?
Well, it's part of business. I mean, it's part of
hopefully you're on the
technology.
Hopefully it's a standing set.
Ever a situation when you presented an edit from a director or to a producer or writer where they saw the edit and everything was wrong and they wanted to recut some stuff? I'm sure that's happened somewhere along the way, right?
Well, I mean, my TV grad school was the spelling screenings, and Larry can probably attest to that too. The man was awesome. And then sometimes people come out that think he's crazy, but I always felt and understood he wasn't giving you a note from Aaron Spelling. He was giving you the third person, the viewer note all the time. And there was times even he also recognized what, as the editing team and the editors knew the cutting pattern and the style he liked, but you have to present the director's cut. So But happens, and I'll keep it short, but the editor gets the dailies and they assemble the show. Then they sit with the director and he gets to choose how he wants to present it to the producers. And then we would go show it to Mr. Spelling. And 9 times out of 10, if their scene wasn't working right, he would stop. And he would look at the editor and he'd say, put it back the way you had in your editor's cut. I don't need to see it. I'm sure you did it right. And he would respect the editors of what the work they were doing and the work they knew how to do. He was also very good if the scene order, if the script was written, scene 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, and it just wasn't flowing properly, he'd watch it and he'd stop and he'd look at the continuity sheet, which is a piece of paper that lists the scenes in a short description of each scene. And he says, okay, here's what we're going to do. Write this down. We're going to go from scene 5 to scene 3 to scene 2, then to 1, then back. And he says, put that together. It'll work. He didn't even see it again.
I mean, we would do that too with the director's cut. Directors were kind of guests. They got the first cut, but they really didn't get close to a final cut, unlike film, which is the director's medium.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's important what Chris said about Mr. Spelling, because he really did see things like the audience. What you said before was he didn't want people just saying, what did they just say? He wanted to have clear audio. That was his sensibility. And, a lot of his success was having that point of view.
Fernando says, Pete Farrow, this question is for you. Are you ever going to invite or at least talk about Vanessa Marcel, because she was one of my favorite kind of extras that came on after the original? Yes, I was so heartbreaking when she left the show. I felt bad. So there you have it. I just asked. I'm just brought up what you wanted to know about right there. Chris, do you remember working with Vanessa at all? There you go.
Yes.
Fernando.
Yeah.
Good experiences. Yes.
Good. You can do it.
I had no issues. The other question I get a lot is how was it to work with Shannon? And she was awesome for me. I mean, no issues at all. But I would hear stories I never, heard the girls had issues together. But she was awesome for me.
You saw her work in the editing room, so she's. And Larry has said this before, how talented she really is.
She went through very few takes. She was always knew her lines. She was had a memory. She could do it. Mm-hmm. Photographic memory.
Larry, let's talk about this dryer fellowship.
Well, okay, so here we are.
It's a very big deal in the world of 90210 to get a dryer.
It's a big deal. The dryer, it's all the greatest people in the world have dryer scholarships. No, look, we again in setting the kids up for the adult world. We have this chance to really, what's Brandon going to do? I mean, we got to give him some auspices. He's been on the paper. He's been on the TV station, but now he's got to be recognized in some big organizations. And there's also there's money that goes with these things. And so, I created basically a big prize, kind of, like some of those great college prizes or, Rhodes Scholars, that kind of stuff. And just created the name The Dryer. Just, I don't know. It's just kind of whatever. I just don't remember really why I came up with that, but it sounded good. And again, it was a chance to get Kelly in the middle of Brandon and Mark, which was going to be good. Another triangle situation. Puts her
and also Tracy would have a little bit of play.
And Tracy too, which I really enjoyed in the beginning of it, because Tracy knows more than Kelly. In the beginning, she knows that Brandon's, of course, going for the dryer. Kelly doesn't know, but Kelly knows Mark's going for it. So again, we create this situation where we're involving a lot of people in this thing already, which is good for the storytelling. It's vertically integrating, which we need to do. We want our characters playing with their characters. So so you got this thing there, and now it's. Brandon is going to be an adult. Okay, it's a dog-eat-dog world out there. Now he's going against the guy who already knows the answers to the test. It's a classic situation. He's so connected, and it's like dumbfounding to Brandon. And so Brandon kind of wins in his innocence in a way, and going, I knew I was going to do something. Look, Jason was directing that. I really wanted to please Jason, and also I wanted Jason to bless me for the next year. It was very important to me. So I cast Yul Hauser, who is phenomenal. He plays bumpkin from Minnesota. You know who he is, right, Chris?
Yeah. He's big in California. Yeah.
Oh, he's like a star. He's an iconic guy. And and again, Brandon's connections are Minnesota bumpkins, and the other guy's, father is lunching with Rupert Murdoch. So, you just see the gap that Brandon's really going to have to go to once he's out of the thing. He doesn't have those, private school old boy network connections. And so now we got Brandon we've got Brandon and Mark, and again, in the Kelly relationship, as I said before, they hadn't made love, which is really kind of cool. I hadn't remembered that until I saw it again. So this, theoretically, we're getting close to where they're going to do it, and this is really it. But, Mark, I didn't realize he actually gives Brandon bad advice. He gives him this advice that the guy
sends him down the wrong way.
Always asks, deserted island questions. And instead the guy comes up with a doozy, comes out to ask him to compare and contrast John Calvin and Ezekiel.
Larry,
instance.
Can you do that right now?
I can do that right now. I'm going to do that right now. I did have it. I think I might have wrote it. Okay. I'm going to compare them. They're both dead. Okay. Now I'm going to contrast them. John Calvin was a reformer. Ezekiel was a prophet. John Calvin had his feet on the ground. Ezekiel had his head in the clouds.
There you go. You think that's what Brandon's answer was?
I think Brandon had the simplest way through that. He knew Ezekiel was a prophet, a visionary kind of guy who said crazy stuff. And John Calvin was a realist, guy with his feet on the ground and reformer, Protestant. So I don't know. But again, that's kind of a fun thing. I don't think I did have another scene where Brandon does give that, but we did throw that out there. And I think Jason shot the shit out of this too. The terror walking into the room looked really pretty cool, and just everything. And it's a very dry subject, but I thought it really played well. What did you think, Erin? I mean, did this?
I thought the funniest line was when the interviewer says, "Are you familiar with the Bible?" and Brandon says, "You mean when I take it on dessert?" The most random response.
He's just hoping.
I know. Yeah. That's like a bad Jeopardy. Like you're on Jeopardy. It's opera is the category. For me, it would be bad.
Chris, I want to ask you another question, not to do with this episode, but I see it popping up, and it's a good one. When you were in the editing room and see a boom hole pop into your shot. And this happens a lot through 90210. What was the reaction? Are you guys like, what are we going to do? Because it always gets left in.
Yeah. So, I mean, in that day, there wasn't a lot of VFX to fix that kind of a thing. So you could blow up the shot the most you could. But today's world, it's a very easy fix. As soon as that boom comes in, you can just, spend a little bit of money and scrub it out.
But back then, not so much. But was there ever reactions like, I see the boom? Is that coming up in your world?
It always comes up. It always comes. I mean, it depends on the team, the sound team and the camera team, and they have to get along and communicate with each other because there's only so much they can bring that boom down in there to get the best quality.
It was a low ceiling in the sets we had. Chris, I don't know. I have to tell this quick story to Chris because he'll appreciate it. But I had a comedy deal at Sony. I can forget what it was called, Columbia then. And the young guys had the office next to Michael Moy, and I can't remember the other guys, but they were doing the first year of Married with Children, and they were working with a lady I know, Fran McConnell. And she said she brought them in for the pre-production meeting for the pilot, and she said to the guys, I'm going to get you the best crew possible. And they looked at her and said, no, we want the worst crew. We want the worst crew. We want to see the boom. We want it to be it's like an anti-sitcom. And that's what they did.
Oh, that's great. Michelle wants to know, Larry, if Mark was not written out as early as you had planned, would you still have had Kelly go out with Tom? Good question.
No, we wouldn't have, because I don't think Tom would have existed. I think the need for Tom happened because we were going to be getting rid of Mark. Like we said, it's a personnel decision, which was affecting storytelling. We were going to lose one male actor, and we really didn't. We had to kind of, just again, we needed materialists. When you're doing 32 hours, you just need a lot of content. You need a lot of possibilities. And, we saw a hole there for Kelly, and we thought we could fix it, with put Valerie and her together. And, there's some things we could do. So, no, I don't think so.
Another one that came up.
But we wanted to keep Mark. I mean, he was going to become her boyfriend for that year.
If Mark stays, does Brandon still get the dryer? Or
in my mind, he just becomes a good loser. You know what I mean? Right. Like the best man won. I mean, and then he gets laid. That's what happens.
Right.
So
it didn't happen, unfortunately.
Didn't happen, unfortunately.
Mark or Dalton.
He revealed character.
Erin, do you have any additional questions that you want to throw in the mix here?
I was curious for Larry and Chris if you knew what kind of direction Jason gave Kim for the Dayna character when she was saying all of those lines.
Oh, I mean, I think Jason created a good atmosphere on the set to have a little bit of fun with that. And Kim, what was great about Kim is she's so deadpan doing it too. I mean, it's really good. So I wish she was here. We could kind of give her some, some bravos on that.
But there's one line, I think it was a spelling added wild line from his cup about, and something about in my bedroom. He wanted to add the bedroom line, little zinger. But I remember that was added later.
Oh, interesting. Oh, well, yeah. Where's this test going to take place? Yeah, in my bedroom. Okay, interesting.
Well, there definitely sounded like that was a
little loopy. Yeah.
But I was pretty amazed that we went to Century City. We went to the beach on this episode, and we shot, the shit out of the set, the college set. I thought it was pretty big looking production.
I mean, also for Chris, I mean, there's a lot of great.
So I guess, I know what it was. So Century City was the dryer. The dryer stuff must have been shot at Century City, and the same thing. I'm thinking now that looked like a hotel, and we had Mark's party there, also the father's party. So we made our days there.
I was going to ask you about shooting on the beach. That seems to be anytime, and 90210 shot on the beach a lot over the years. That seems to be probably where most of the ADR is happening. And I'm curious for some of there's like a lot of stuff with Dylan and Kelly on the beach and some of really the more powerful stuff. And some of that has to become ADR because it's important dialogue. Do you see the actors, do they do it together? And is that sort of chemistry still there? Or how is that process? What is that process like?
It's usually always individually. Even, unless there's something where they are physically overlapping and want to do it again. But it's usually, scheduling issue, plus it's just all queued separately and they come in by themselves to do.
You're looking on a screen. They're looking on a screen and watching some lines and they have the headphones on.
Yeah. It's fascinating to me because some of the best stuff, emotionally on screen looks wonderful, but there is this ADR added to it afterwards. And it's interesting to know that while the chemistry is great, physically they're adding all that stuff later on.
And it's tough, and we've even had conversations where we requested, and it's easy to ask, but it's really hard to do it on the production standpoint. It's like, get the master shot with them down by the water, but then when they're in coverage with the singles on each of them, bring them just 20 feet up the beach. Well, you get the water in the background, but they'll be 20 feet away from the water.
Yeah.
Did they ever shoot that for us? I'm not sure, but I know we asked for it just to try and ask for some help, so we would have less looping.
Did it get better over time with some of that, or no?
Sure, I mean it does, but it also depends on the crew and and the time allowed it,
and the wind.
There's also a great from the guys in the sound department told me, because one of my supervisors was an old boom operator, and he says that my first day boom operating, he said the mixer pulled me aside. He says, "Look, he said, see everyone on the set here? They all work for picture, but there's only 2 guys on set who work for sound." So they get ganged up on for picture, for hair and for makeup, but when they ask for about a sound issue, everyone wants to worry about picture. So sometimes sound doesn't get the time or respect, and it depends on the director, it depends on the producers, and they have to, they don't want to slow down production, so there's lots of politics involved with asking for a fix. And what's cheaper? Finish shooting this because it's costing us hundreds of thousands of dollars per hour, and then we'll fix it with the sound later.
We were talking.
I want to ask him about.
Go ahead.
As a gentleman here we never have had on. Chuck is at war. Chuck goes crazy about the music of the show that Kenny Miller, he believes, replaced. So we never have had Kenny on, even though Kenny was a very important person in the show. Obviously, he was, as you said, he was your boss.
Well,
do you know what happened with the music, where the music for the DVDs, a lot of it got replaced. They didn't renew the licensing deals, and they just replaced it with generic music.
Yeah, I wasn't involved in any of that, but I heard.
Oh, good. Okay, you're fine then.
Yeah, I'm off the hook. Tell Chuck you can talk to me. No, all I know is, I think, it was Miami Vice that really started all the music in the shows, and that was becoming more popular, and it was a big thing for us. And then with Melrose Place at the same time, they would have a band on, but then at the end there was some deal. You'd see the CD album cover to go buy it.
Right.
They picked up cash on that. Yeah, it was
big marketing campaign.
Product placement, basically. They would get paid for it.
But back in that time, no one wanted to invest the money in what they call an in perpetuity, a license forever. They would just buy like a 5-year license because it was cheaper. And part of the opinion of that time was it's not production's problem, it's the distribution company's problem to worry about. So if they want to distribute it, they have to invest the money in the new license. And that's where, I heard a lot of the music got changed because it's just so expensive to listen. Now, every show out there up front goes for in perpetuity.
In perpetuity, of course. Yeah.
So that way it's done, it's approved. And it's
just props to Chuck Rosen, who's not here with us this week, because he fights so many battles, and he did for 90210. You kind of mentioned it before, Larry. He would have went to war, over Mark Reese, maybe, I don't know, in one way or the other. But he fought for the show, and he's fighting right now some political stuff in his town, but also on behalf of the fans, he really wants the music to get restored in the series. So
I think that the fact that the episodes are not on Hulu is just ridiculous. I mean, you can't have you shouldn't be allowed to have this series if you're not going to air the series.
Exactly.
I mean, they have to figure a way. I assume the one we just saw jobbed.
I can't imagine.
I think it's in the video that we're going to blame Chris on it. There's music. There's this rap group where they're talking, and I don't think you can replace it that easily. You'd have to kind of remix the whole thing or something.
You're talking about the Power Man 5000 video where
no, I'm talking about the one is that Power Man 5000?
I think so, where they're watching
the old video from Buffalo.
Yes.
That's a mixing stage issue. Their dialogue wasn't connected to that at all.
See, it shouldn't have been a problem.
We can't figure out why or how this episode is not on Hulu. There's nothing offending.
Yeah, because and that song I remember I think it was a Steve choice near the end, but it was very edgy for us. But it was also
very edgy.
But it was a bad memory, for Tiffany, and it was. I mean, that song was not us at all, but it was hard to convey that scene, awkwardness, and bad memories.
It was so not us that I brought Power Man 5000 on a couple of episodes later. It was Jason's band. Jason had a label, Curve of the Earth.
We had, all the bands that came on, Larry, they were so much fun. I shared a couple of stories with you last week, but like Brian Setzer Orchestra was on, and there's a big band to have on, large group of people. And then I remember I was on set that day, and the director's talking with the assistant directors, and they're trying to block out a shot and get the cameras right and get the actors right. And here's this band that's been there like all day long, and they're bored because they're waiting around. And finally, Brian just has a countdown for the band, and they start playing. And the ADs try to stop them, and they won't stop. And they went for 20 or 30 minutes, and the whole crew just put everything down and started dancing. It was a hoot.
Oh, that's great.
Hey, Chris, while you're here, I know we could talk to you all day, but the Rolling Stones episode, do you have any memories of that because of getting the tape and the license? The Chuck's and Larry have kind of talked about that before, but do you have any memories of that?
I wasn't on the show for that one because I think that's when I was over at Melrose Place.
Yeah,
gotcha.
David
I think this was Chuck's brother-in-law was the AD.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Erin, do you have anything else you want to throw into the mix here? Because we have After Dark to get to. Yeah.
That was all I got, I think.
All right, cool. All right, so listen, guys, next week, Chuck and I are going to be covering Commencement with Dan Attias. That's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be pre-recorded. We will not be live. And then we are working on a couple of other episodes in the next couple of weeks that are going to be a lot of fun stuff that you guys have asked for a while.
Yeah, like Unreal World, maybe. Yeah, we got some stuff coming.
Definitely.
Great. All right. Well, so good to see you, Chris. Glad we could have you on. I'm sure Pete's going to watch.
I was flattered to be here. Thank you so much. It was really nice to be invited.
Amazing, Chris. And get ready because we're going to have you way more now. So just be prepared for many questions. Okay. Good seeing everybody again this week. For everybody else, we'll be on After Dark in just a minute.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.